And we're back. Click the subscribe button. Follow me. Send some messages. The John Alite Show. And we're going to dive right in today to the new hot subject in the media the last 2 months. District Attorney Gasson, because of political reasons, he was getting destroyed financially and he was losing the election. He came up with this bright idea of talking about the Menendez brothers and the possibility of them getting out of prison. And he tried to use it as a stepping stone for himself, I believe, in my analysis of what he did with politically, which he lost. District Attorney, I think Hochman, I don't know how he pronounces it, just had a news brief about the ability of these brothers to get resentenced. Now, they can have a pardon from the governor, Newsom, who never did over the years. So I don't know what would make him change his stance on it. They have the ability for new evidence, habeas corpus, which they came in with a letter saying they wrote, I believe it was Lyle that wrote it, not Eric, wrote it to his cousin saying that they were sexually abused by the father and the mother. The mother was complicit with it, and the father was raping the one, and the mother supposedly was sexually abusing the other. That was a letter they supposedly wrote 8 months prior to the last trial when they were convicted. And that was 1989 is when they committed the murders. They told about 15 lies at the time of the trial. They had somebody shoot the parents in the knees with shotguns, saying, or they had a regular pistol, but the shotgun is how they blew the father's head off. And said they made it look like a mafia hit or a gang hit robbery. So they shot him after killing him. They shot him in the legs too. They lied about a lot of this stuff, and they covered up a lot of things they did. They bought tickets to a theater, and they trying to say that they came home and they didn't know, and they found them later on. And so all this went into court when they went to trial. And one of the things that hurt them is the brothers were talking to a therapist and admitted to killing the parents. I have no idea why, which one. I forget which one it was, but it doesn't matter. Why they would do that and tell the therapist, I have no idea. Because if they're going to be honest about, and this is my take, if they're going to be honest about killing the parents, why wouldn't you be honest with the therapist about being sexually abused by them? So it didn't make sense that they were saying they were sexually abused now. Now, there's also a new law that came in effect in California, which the judge could resentence them and take the life without parole sentence off of them and resentence them to time served. And believe it or not, a lot of the family members of the Menendez brothers are going after Hochman for not being on board with letting the brothers out, which is, to me, kind of unusual, crazy. I don't know what they think they know or believe, and saying the kids they're not kids anymore, that they're rehabilitated. Now, they went to trial, I believe the murder was in 89, and I believe the trial was around 94 when they were convicted. So do the math, they've been in jail a long time. And they're saying they're different guys now. They rehabilitated, they went to school, they took all kinds of classes, they're helping people. All the jargon, you use to try to get out of jail. Now, in the middle of this, you had the mother's name was Kitty, by the way, and the father was Jose. In the middle of this, you have advocates that are saying, he should get out. But you had the Robert F. Kennedy murder, and the same thing, and this is what the prosecutor's saying. They're not admitting they did it, they lied. They're not, if they changed and they were rehabilitated, they take another look at it if they were sorry for what they did. And instead, they're not taking the blame for it. So the prosecutor, the district attorney, Hochman, is saying, well, if they changed to that extent, Why haven't they asked for forgiveness, and why aren't they admitting what they did and let them reevaluate if they changed their lives in the last 30-something plus years? Now, also, during the trial, if they claim they were sexually abused, why wasn't this ever brought out during the trial? This wasn't one of the defenses they used during the trial. And why didn't they ask for that letter to come forward if that letter was written back then? Because they believe that letter was written afterwards as a tactic, what they're using now to try to get out of jail for these crimes. Now, they use the basis, like I said, the Robert F. Kennedy murder, and they denied him from coming out of prison because he wouldn't take responsibility either. So they're using that case as case law not to allow these guys to come out of prison. Now, I talk about a lot of cases with no violence. Oscar Lugo is the name I always bring up because he was convicted in Westchester, PA, and he was sentenced to 300-something years. And then he brought it back in, and they charged him with 100. They sentenced him 100-something years. No violence, ever. Not on the street, not in jail, no tickets in prison. He's a good God-bearing soul. He helps a lot of people in prison. He's got all kinds of degrees. He's done everything right, and no evidence. Actually, the federal government wouldn't take the case because they didn't believe there was any evidence there. Now, I've talked to a lot of the people that testified against him that recanted their testimony. So there's so many cases like him that he should be released. He was accused of selling cocaine. Never accused of killing anybody, never accused of shooting anybody, never accused of stabbing anybody in prisons or anywhere else, and he's been in jail for over 20 years. So when you look at these cases nationwide, how are a guy like Oscar Lugo in prison, and it's not all over the media, when rehabilitated or not, he's never hurt anybody. And he is rehabilitated, but the point is, if he isn't, who is he going to hurt? He never hurt anybody. But the Menendez brothers killed their own parents. Now, they admitted they killed them. It's not if they did, but the new thing they're saying is they were sexually abused. But that's here or there. We know they're violent enough to do what they did, the way they set it up. And Oscar Lugo, and not that I'm comparing two cases because one has nothing to do with the other, but there's so many cases like Oscar Lugo's that are not being addressed. And I don't understand why not. This is an individual, when he was in his 20s, he was charged with selling cocaine. And whether he did or didn't, and I don't believe he did, but and I really believe, because I looked at the case, and I spoke to different witnesses of that case that testified against them, that said they were coerced. And they were put in the same room together to get their story straight. And one of the police officers weren't used because he was also supposedly corrupt on other cases. So when you look at these cases, how is this man in jail for 20-something years? He's in his 50s now with not a stitch of violence. And and this is the problem. I always say this. They need people like myself to go on these boards to look at these cases that can judge individuals. Because an individual that goes into a store, robs the store and just takes and executes a woman and a man in the store, I don't know if they could be rehabilitated. I don't know what's on their mind to do something as vicious as that. And then you have guys in my old lifestyle that were gangsters that kill each other, and there's no real reason besides, but they're not out there trying to kill the public. So I understand the difference between these kind of individuals. But how does a case like this get such world-renowned recognition for killing parents, and Oscar Lugo doesn't? And when you see the families of the Menendez brothers, they're viciously going after Hochman. And Hochman just said, well, we'll leave it in the hands with the judge, but he's doing his job to try to keep people off the street that would do something like this to their parents. What would say they wouldn't do it to a woman in a store or somebody they wanted to just revenge. on a robbery or something personal. And that's his job, is to protect the citizens of this country, right? Although it's got lost over the years what's going on with illegal immigrants, right? So, the standard of the thought process has changed for some reason, especially in California. When you look at some of the crimes there and what some of these guys are in jail for, they should be out. And then yet you got people like this that did what they did, brutalized their parents and lied 15 times. And they try to write some of those lies. I believe 4 or 5 of them. They try to retract them later on, admit they lied, and they use excuses why they lied. And I'm not judging them because I don't know the case as much. But all I'm saying is, if you have so many guys in the prison system that didn't do anything nearly like this, and they're hammering them with lifetime sentences, which they shouldn't get, not if they haven't did anything serious like that. And not also when a guy like Oscar Lugo's whole sentencing up and down has got to be questioned. And the judge had sentenced him because he was vindictive towards him. And I don't know if it was racist or it was because he believed the guy wouldn't admit to what he was being charged with, which obviously all the witnesses are recanting and saying they were being forced, pressured, and put in the same room. So I don't even know how nobody's looking at this case. And I'm constantly bringing it up every time I'm on my shows because I look at cases like the Menendez brothers, and it wasn't just a regular murder. It was vicious. When Hochman is talking and leaving it in the hands of the judge, I'm curious really what these family members are so animate and attacking that they want these guys out of jail. And if they know something from the past in the early 80s or 89 or prior to that they knew the parents were doing something to these kids, then why didn't they come forward back then? So I don't believe, personally, I can't believe that they did anything to him sexually. Maybe they weren't the greatest parents. I don't know. They also accused, in one of the letters, Lyle wrote asked his girlfriend to write a letter saying his father, Jose, was raping his girlfriend and drugged her. So some of these crazy accusations and of things they were trying to do to manipulate the verdict, how can you trust them after that? And what's making these family members go against the dead parents? I mean, like I said, if they knew something at the time, why didn't they say it? Why didn't they testify? Why didn't they come forward? Why didn't they make a bigger deal of it? Why are they waiting 30-something years now and coming back and saying these kids deserve to be out of prison? These men now, they're not kids. Sorry, I said that a couple of times. The case is a phenomenal case as far as, the media. And as time goes on, this case, because of Gasson, it became in the media again because he wanted to use it for his own reasons. He didn't do it because he really believed these kids were innocent. And we know that he's a fanatical on the left side, left wing guy that allowed a lot of people in LA to be killed, robbed, raped, and didn't prosecute. So that's another part of this. But give your opinions of what you think. And like I always say, there's cases like Oscar Lugo. There's also the Duca brothers I always talk about. And the Duca brothers also, I want to put them in there, were charged by Chris Christie for terrorism with not one act of any kind of overt act of violence. Nothing. So how are these guys getting life sentences? There's so many, these cases need to be looked at. There's got to be something done with the system of so many people that are left there for years and years while their fathers died and their family's grown and they're missing everything. And there's no real proof or evidence besides, unfortunately our system is very corrupt. We know it is. We've seen what happened to President Trump. So when they can manipulate against somebody as a target, and Chris Christie did that. He did it to elevate himself to governor. I'm not a big fan of his. He's arrogant. He used helicopters. He spent money to go to his son's baseball game. And he says he'll do what he wants to do. And he campaigned against the president because he was angry and jealous because the president put him in a position that he wanted on his term before that, attorney general. So he's part of the deep state. He's part of the problem, Chris Christie. So if I know he does that, manipulates against the president, I also know he manipulates against the Dukas because it's in his DNA. He's a manipulative guy, vindictive guy, and he's doing anything. He'll do anything to elevate himself to that position that he'll never see. As long, and it's the same when he tried to run for president, it was a joke. As he couldn't even get up the stairs. He couldn't walk up the stairs, figure out, run. Anyway, everybody, hit the click button. Give your opinions on the Menendez brothers, on Oscar Lugo, on the Dukas, on the system itself. Hit the subscribe button and write those questions, please. And follow me. Instagram, John Alite. Follow me on Facebook, TikTok. And we're approaching the spring and summer. So everybody have a good year and enjoy yourselves and stay safe. Thank you.